pretend, man. I love you when you're singing that song, and I got a lump in my throat, cause you're gonna sing the words wrong, yeah. I got a lump in my throat, cause you're gonna sing the words wrong.
You promise it's different. You swear that you listened. I don't mind if you didn't, cause I just love the sound of your voice. You roleplay the good guy, lemon juice, your white lies, but I see 'em in the sunrise. You got me right in the palm of your hand, and you know it. Oh, it's what you do. So let me drown, I'll be there with the band. Hit the seabed, all I'd see is you. So give me your worst excuses, any reason to stay. Give me your lips, the taste of her, I kiss them again. I'd rather you walk all over me than walk away. Give me the worst of you, cause I want you anyway. So take me to every party and just talk to your friends. Why don't you let me down, I'll let you do it again. Go on and walk all over me, just don't walk away. Give me the worst of you, cause I want you anyway. We make up, but I know we'll fist fight through iPhones. My left hook, a no-show, cause I just keep letting you in. But baby, the truth is, I make your excuses. You let me down, and I'm used to it. You got me right in the palm of your hand, and you know it. Oh, it's what you do. So let me drown, I'll be there with the band. Hit the seabed, all I see is you. Oh. So give me your worst excuses, any reason to stay. Give me your lips, the taste of her, I kiss them again. I'd rather you walk all over me than walk away. Give me the worst of you, cause I want you anyway. So take me to every party and just talk to your friends. Why don't you let me down, I'll let you do it again. Go on and walk all over me, just don't walk away. Give me the worst of you, cause I want you anyway. Anyway, anyway. Cause I want you anyway. Anyway, anyway. Another night, another dotted line, I sign my heart away to you. Some call it foolish, guess I'll call it art.
Stop the clocks, it's amazing. You should see the way the light dances up your hair. A million colors of hazel, golden and red. Saturday morning is fading. The sun's reflected by the coffee in your hand. My eyes are caught in your gaze all over again. We were love drunk, waiting on a miracle, trying to find our till the afterglow. I can see you standing, honey, with his arms around your body, laughing but the joke's not funny at all. And it took you 5 whole minutes to pack us up and leave me with it, holding all this love out here in the hall. I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. You're not my homeland anymore, so what am I defending now? You were my town, now I'm in exile seeing you out. I think I've seen this film before.
I can see you staring, honey, like he's just your understudy, like he'd get your knuckles bloody for me. Second, third, and 100th chances, balancing on breaking branches. Those eyes add insult to injury. I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. I'm not your problem anymore, so who am I offending now? You were my crown, now I'm in exile seeing you out. I think I've seen this film before, so I'm leaving out the side door.
So step right out. There is no amount of cry I can do for all this time. We always walked a very thin line. You didn't even hear me out.
Didn't even hear me
You never
out.
gave a warning
I
sign.
gave so many
All this
signs.
time, I never learned to read your
Never
mind.
learned to read my
I couldn't
mind.
turn things
Never
around,
turn things
'cause you
around.
never gave a warning
I
sign.
gave so many signs.
So many signs, so many signs.
good girl trying to do what's right. Never told no lies. Then you came around, and suddenly my world turned upside down. Now there's no way out. I tried to fight against it, shut out what all my friends said. Can't get you out of my head. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I keep letting you in, though I know it's not a good thing. I got you under my skin. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're so out of line. You make me bad and I don't know why. But that's what I like about ya. Yeah, that's what I like about ya. I'm out of my mind. You got me running all the red lights. But that's what I like about ya. Yeah, that's what I like about ya. Make me bad and I don't know. Make me bad and I don't know. That's what I like about ya. I don't care if my daddy don't think we're the perfect pair. It's my affair, and I don't know why. My mama worries when I'm out all night. She thinks I'm nine. I try to fight against it, shut out what all my friends said. Can't get you out of my head. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I keep letting you in, though I know it's not a good thing. I got you under my skin. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're so out of line. You make me bad and I don't know why.
Hello there. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Hello there.
Keep letting you in, though I know it's not a good thing. I got you under my skin. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're so out of line. Yeah, but that's what I like about ya. Yeah, that's what I like about ya. I'm out of my mind. You got me running all the red lights. But that's what I like about ya. Yeah, that's what I like about ya. Yeah, you make me bad and I don't know. But that's what I like about ya. Yeah, that's what I like about ya. You make me bad and I don't know. Make me bad and I don't know. That's what I like about ya. That's what I like about ya. perfect paradise, tearing at the seams. I wish I could escape. I don't wanna think. I wish I could erase it, make your heart believe, but I'm a bad liar, bad liar. Now you know that I'm a bad liar, bad liar. Now you know you're free to go. All my dreams never mean one thing, just happiness lie in a diamond ring. Oh, I've been asking for problems, problems. Ooh, I wage my war on the world inside. I take my gun to the enemy side. Oh, I've been asking for problems, problems. So look me in the eyes, tell me what you see. Perfect paradise, tearing at the seams. I wish I could escape. I don't wanna think. I wish I could erase it, make your heart believe that I'm a bad liar, bad liar. Now you know.
All right, welcome to AISCHAT 4. Hello, engineering enthusiasts. Welcome to AISCHAT 4, Eco-City Development. I am Mila from Urban and Regional Planning of Bandung Institute of Technology as the MC and moderator of today's AISCHAT. So first, we want to thank all attendees for all the enthusiasm. And thank you to our sponsors, PT Pembangkitan Jawa Bali, PT Energy Management Indonesia Persero, Purnomo Yusgiantoro Center, and Badak LNG. We would also like to thank to our community partners, which is WRI, OPA, and also Cansia. And for our media partners for helping this webinar to come true. Thank you so much for partnering and collaborating with us. So before we start our discussion, there are several rules that must be met. So we have sent the rules through your WhatsApp group, so please read it carefully. And also here is the rundown for today. And because the discussion session will be a bit longer, we want you to think critically and prepare your questions so we can explore all about sustainability in the industry together. Now I will explain a little bit about AISC. AISC is a regional student conference with the scope of Southeast Asia, organized by IKEA student chapters of Indonesia, representing IKEA. So we are actually under the IKEA Annual Student Conference. There are 4 IKEA student chapters in Indonesia, which is Bandung Institute of Technology, 10 November Institute of Technology, Pertamina University, and University of Indonesia. And all of that are open for public. So as we're drawing near to our conference day and social night as the main event of AISC, here is a little sneak peek of our conference day. So it might take a while for the video to start.
Hello there.
Okay.
How are you doing? Hope you are doing well. This is Sika.
Hello.
This year, Sika would like to join AISC Conference Day. However, she hasn't quite understood the way Conference Day is organized. So, let me explain. The Conference Day will consist of 3 sessions, each with its own topic and speakers. In every session, selected delegates will be a part of the panel discussion with the speakers. Delegates would engage in a discussion with the speakers after the speaker had concluded their presentation. A little heads up though, the Zoom conference room will be attended by the speakers, delegates, and our invited guests only. If you're just an attendee, just sit back and relax. You can watch the conference live stream on YouTube. Everyone has the opportunity to become delegates. Starting from January 24th, you could register to be one of the delegates. We will do a review on your CV, and if things went well, you will be able to participate as our delegates. And that's all you need to know about AISC Conference Day. Register yourself now at aiscevent.com.
All right, so that is a video sneak peek of our conference day. So stay tuned and follow our Instagram for updated information. So today I'm going to introduce our AISC grant theme this year. So the AISC grant theme this year is sustainability in the industry. And so the purpose of AISCHAT is to introduce sustainability to you, so stay tuned for other AISCHAT series. As I've said before, today's discussion will have the topic of eco-city development. So to get the discussion going, let me introduce you to our first speaker, Mr. Haryanto. Hello, Mr. Haryanto. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Okay, thank you so much to attend our today's event. So before we start, maybe I would like to read a few things about Mr. Haryanto. So Mr. Haryanto is currently a researcher from PYC or Purnomo Sugantoro Center and has been involved in various researches such as mini LNG feasibility study, off-grid electrification, and renewable energy development, also carbon pricing. So without any further ado, let us welcome Mr. Haryanto.
Yeah, thank you, Safa. Let me share my presentation. Yeah, can you see it now?
Yes, Mr. It's clear.
Okay. All right, so good afternoon, everyone, to Safa and all of the audience, and also good morning to Professor Martin in the Netherlands. Thank you very much for coming to this webinar. It's my pleasure to be here today. And first of all, I would say thank you to the invitation from the ISC committee. So today my talk will be about the role of renewable energy in eco-city development. And before I start, I just would like to acknowledge the support from my colleagues to help me prepare this presentation. So before I start, just let me briefly introduce what PIC is. So it's a think tank working in the energy security areas based in Jakarta, and it was established in 2016 by the former Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources. And these are these three areas where this think tank focus on. And we do some research, like we publish brief report and also some analysis about the Indonesian energy sectors. And then also discussion, we have discussion, and also one of our flagship program, biennial program this year is the International Energy Conference in October this year. So all of you here can also participate. And publication also, we have journal which you can publish your journal, and also data center related to energy sector, and also podcast related to energy. So that's a short introduction about PIC. And now before I start, let me share you with a poll. With the committee can help me. Yeah, just to share poll to see. All right. All right, maybe 10 seconds more. Right, I will end the poll. Yeah, so well, it's quite balanced. I think everyone coming here have various background about this ecocity. So I'll try my best to share what I know. Right. So what is ecocity? I think there are many definition about ecocity, and also some terms that you might hear like green city or sustainable city or many other terms. But I think we can see like from the definition here, I take it from the World Bank. So basically, when we talk about ecocity, it needs to enhance the well-beings of the citizens and also the society through integrated urban planning and management by harnessing the benefits of ecological systems. So what I want to highlight here is that when we talk about ecocity, it's not only we talk about the physical environment like the quality of air, soil, and water, but also the well-being of the people itself. So it's not only related to the physical environment in that sense. And also another good definition, I think, is what we can take from the ecocitybuilder.org. It's a famous or well-known foundation that promotes about ecocity is that in ecocity you need to have this feature which in which that you don't consume more energy than you can produce, and also not producing that waste than you can manage and so on. So this is in general what we can say about ecocity. And also maybe you can hear about the term smart city, that kind of things, but in that sense when we talk about smart city it's more related to the use of technology. But when we talk in ecocity, we look at the whole area of the city, like the people and the economy and the environment. So now the question is, why do we need ecocity, and why is it important? So first is that we know nowadays that there is a rapid urbanization and also pollution. Also, studies show that during these days, already more than 50% of the world population, more than 4 billion people live in the city. So you can imagine if we don't create like eco-city, a sustainable city, which I will explain in detail later, is that in the future we will have more pollutions and so on. So that's why we need to have and to develop this ecocity. And it is normal, like when we think about this urbanization, because people from the rural areas, I mean, people tend to want to have a good access to education, work, and so on. So that's why there is urbanization, and this trend will keep going on. And the second one is traffic congestion. Like if we don't adjust or create the city to become more sustainable, it will keep going on. There will be congestion everywhere, and it will create more pollution as well. Also, the waste issue. This is one of the important things because without a good management, like waste, it's just too much, and people produce so many waste, and if you don't manage it, like the waste can pile up, and also we need so many areas like where to throw this waste for like the landfill and so on. And also in big city, when you don't manage it well, there are also many slum areas where people here, at least Indonesia, I think some people still practice like throwing the waste into the rivers, and that's not something we want. Now the next one is yeah. Now what are the features of ecocity then? First is the access to public resource. That's one features that we can look on. Like when we talk about an ecocity, ideally you should have good access to education, where people can access quality education, and then there is good public transportation. So let me take a sample like in Jakarta. I think that's a good example. Like there is the MRT and also the busway and so on. So at least people in Jakarta, I can say, have a relatively good public transport compared to other areas in Indonesia. So that's one thing. Also, public resource in terms like parks, also green areas that should be included in the eco city. And the second one is the reduction of CO2 emissions. So when we talk about reduction of CO2 emissions, there are many ways to do it. Nowadays, I think there's a trend where people have the kind of like urban farming or vertical garden, and there are many, maybe like a bicycle. Nowadays, you can see people use bicycle to work, and also we can use renewable energy, which is the topic of this presentation. Like when we use renewable energy, for sure we will reduce the CO2 emissions. And the third one, yeah, it's the reduce, reuse, and recycle. It's in relation with the waste. Like in an eco city, I think I should promote like people should reduce less waste, and you must reuse and recycle your waste whenever you can. And I think one good example here is that I think last year, I think the government of Jakarta already enacted the regulation where it bans the single plastic use in the supermarket. So I think that's one good regulation that can advocate the decrease for the plastic waste, and that's a good example, like what we want with the waste management. Now the fourth one, I think in the eco-city should favor ethical consumption, and what I mean here is that we know that when we consume too much, it leads to exploitation of the natural resources. So in an eco-city, ideally, if it's possible, we want to have a locally sourced food, and the food that comes, it should come from a fair trade where it supports the local supply chains. So it brings value and benefits to the suppliers, and it promotes a sustainability lifestyle. And these lists here are not exhaustive, but it gives like a general views what should be the features of EcoCity. And yeah, it's also in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals 11, where we want to try to create and achieve sustainable cities and communities. All right. Now, this is also important. Like when we talk about the sustainable development here, it means that we do not only focus in the environment, because I'm afraid that when we talk about sustainable development, some people may think that we only care about the environment and so on. But that's not the case here, because when we talk about the sustainable development and also the sustainable city, we should also take into account the social aspects of the people. So in an eco city, ideally, people can have good access to work and so on, and career and so on, and a good and inclusive community. That's also one thing. And the third one is the economy. So the concept here is that when we talk about eco city, it doesn't mean that we sacrifice the economy development and only care about the environment. So this is the idea, the three areas for the sustainable development. And now, as I said before, like when we talk about the CO2 emissions, and that's what we'll focus on today, we can use the renewable energy. And why is it important? Because Indonesia already commits to reduce the country's carbon emissions, like by 29% and even 41% with the international aid in the future. And it actually has gone back long to a history, like a long time ago, like from the Kyoto Protocol and so on. And I think the well-known one is the Paris Agreement, where Indonesia government already said we commit that we would like to reduce our country's carbon emissions. And one way to achieve that is definitely by using more renewable energy. So now, when we say we want to reduce the carbon emissions here, and here I said it's like the greenhouse gas emissions, but to simplify this case, we can say it's more or less the same. When in the greenhouse gas emissions, actually, there are more than carbon dioxide, there are also methane and so on. But well, to reduce the carbon emissions, first we need to know the source, right? So what is the first source? The first one is the agriculture, forestry and other land use or FLU. It comes from the livestock, like like from the farm, you have cows and so on. The manure could also release GHG emissions. I think yeah, in countries like Netherlands where there are many agriculture activities, this is also one issue. And then the land, the land change use is also a source of the GHG emissions. And the second one is the energy. Like from the energy, it's very straightforward. I think you use the energy for fuel, it generates carbon dioxide and also the fugitive emission from fuel emissions. And then the third one is from the waste, like it can be in the domestic solid waste or wastewater. And the industrial one, of course, it emits greenhouse gas emissions. And then the last one is the industrial process and product use, and it comes from the factory activities, the chemical industries or mineral or metal industries. And for sure, of these four category emits the greenhouse gas emissions. And now, yeah, I think I have a poll. The next one, please. So from these four, which one do you think emits the most of the greenhouse gas emission? So yeah, the committee can choose out. Yeah, the second one, I think. Right. It's the second polling. Yeah. Just to check what the audience think. Okay, maybe 10 seconds more. All right. Well, interesting. So most of you think that the emissions come from the IPP or the industrial process and so on, and the second one is from the agriculture. Yes, and last one is the waste. And now let us see what is the case. Yeah, so I take this data from the Ministry of Energy and Environment. This is the inventory of the greenhouse gas emissions in 2017. Yeah, this is the latest data that I have. So what interesting here is that we can see that there was a shift of the dominant carbon emitter from the, in 2015 is from the agriculture and land use change. And now in 2017, it's already more in the energy sector. So this is interesting. Actually, the industrial process didn't contribute that much. So well, I mean that's the perception, right? I mean, as the public sometimes we think, oh yeah, it's from the industrial activity, but actually in practice it's from the energy. And that's why I think it's reasonable why we should use more renewable energy, because from the carbon emission itself, the dominant source is the from the use of energy. So we need to use more environmental friendly energy in this case. Oops. Yeah, I think maybe you can see that, but you can share the poll. I think the last one. Yeah. Oh. Well, I think there's well, I will just end the poll. I think there are some mistakes. I think the option should be more. It's fine. I just want to see before, but previously I have nuclear as option here, but it's fine. All of these four are actually renewable energy. So here, these are the types of renewable energy we have, like the solar, the ocean, the hydro, the wind is also common, biomass, and also geothermal. And speaking of these six, Indonesia is very, let's say, we have very huge resource potential for this, and it's a pity if we don't maximize the use of our potential. So here we can see is the data from the Ministry of Energy and Environment. So we can see that our biggest potential here is from the solar, and followed by the hydro, and then geothermal. And we can see the percentage of utilization here. Still, so far we develop many of the geothermal power plant, because we have many of that, and then hydro, bioenergy, and solar. Well, you can see here that actually we have so many potential, but we don't maximize our potential yet. So there are still a lot of opportunities to utilize our renewable energy. And this is just to show you that so far our primary energy supply here is still dominated by the fossil energy, which is oil, coal, and gas, and the NRE, new renewable energy, is still the least one. So this is the fact what happens now, and we should change this in the future. But I just want also to highlight that even though our energy mix is still dominated by the fossil energy, but there is an increasing trend of this. So this is a good news. Although, Indonesia has a plan to achieve a 23% renewable energy mix by 2025, and we need drastic measures to achieve that, because it's 5 years more, and by 2019 we don't achieve 10% yet. And now, just to show you, this is the energy mix. As I said, it's dominated by coal, and then oil, gas, and new and renewable energy. But nowadays, you also already develop many facilities to utilize the gas, like using the LNG and so on. So we are gradually shifting. And then for the electricity mix, it's the same. It's called gas, NRE, and then oil. So, well, I think maybe people wonder, but it's maybe I can say we can still use coal because it's the least expensive one, and of course it's not environmentally friendly, and that's why nowadays we develop more advanced technologies to reduce the carbon emissions. But when we say that we want to switch to renewable energy, it cannot be happen in 1 year, or just in few months, because there are many challenges that we need to consider. So now, what is the role of renewable energy for the present and future? The first one is obvious, that we want to use energy that's environmentally friendly. And the second one is also important, and in Indonesian context, when we say renewable energy, it doesn't only mean that we want to use an environmentally friendly source, but also it is a way to provide an electricity access. For example, in some islands in Indonesia, where I visited last year, in 2019, I think it's one island near Banten. Like, they don't have access to electricity 24 hours. Like it's just a few hours in the evening, and they use the diesel. So you can imagine, if you can utilize the solar panel, I mean, then well, in that case, we can provide electricity access to these areas. That's one benefit of the renewable energy. And the third one is to increase the number of green jobs. And now, as good as it might sound, why don't we use the renewable energy? Well, and that is because there are still many challenges. And maybe two common one is the financial challenges, financial barriers, and the second one, the regulation. But here today, I want to provide these challenges from four different perspectives. The first one is the availability. So when we want to use more renewable energy, sometimes it's difficult because maybe, let's say the energy from the hydro or the wind, it is located very specific wise. I mean, in terms of location, and there's a challenge to distribute it to the demand location. And in Indonesia case, we know Java Island is the most populous island. I think most of the energy demand is here, but the renewable energy resource is actually spread over all of Indonesia. That's one thing. And second one is the accessibility. Like I mean, in terms of comparison to fossil energy. And third one is the affordability. We know that coal until today is still the cheapest option in Indonesia. Of course, this is without considering the external cost to the environment. But we can imagine, like, when we want to switch to more renewable energy, there should be also some price adjustment. Maybe if we can afford the electricity, we will advocate for it. But for some people, like they don't even have the access to the electricity yet. So if we suddenly change to renewable energy, all of it, and not everyone can afford it. This is another challenge, and that's why we need to provide an incentive. And the acceptability, for example, like if we want to develop the geothermal or hydro power plant in some villages, like you may face some resistance from the local people, because it will also change the landscape and affect their livelihood. So there's also a challenge that we need to consider. Yeah. So that is it. Short presentation from me. I believe that in the next session we will hear more deeper about the implementation of the eco-city, I think in China, from Professor Martin. So thank you for your kind attention. And for my presentation, you can read more from our website. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Haryanto, for the presentation. What a great presentation we have. I believe we have learned a lot new things about the role of renewable energy in eco-city development, and why do we need eco-city, and the features of eco-city, to the role and challenges in developing renewable energy with this eco-city development. Thank you so much, Mr. Haryanto. I believe we can discuss more about this in the Q&A session. And so now I'm going to introduce you to our next speaker, Professor Martin de Jong. Good afternoon from Indonesia, Professor Martin. Okay.
Sorry. Yes, honored to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Probably I'm going to read a few things about Professor Martin. So Professor Martin de Jong is a scientific director of the Erasmus University of Rotterdam Research Initiative Dynamics of Inclusive Prosperity, and also one of the executive board's flagship research centers. And Professor Martin has 25 years of international experience in research, education, and entrepreneurship on public policy, decision-making, urban studies, infrastructure development, and also cross-cultural management. So I believe you all have been waiting for Professor Martin's presentation. So without any further ado, I will give the stage to Mr. Professor Martin.
Thank you very much, Shafa. And I realized, in fact, I realized this yesterday, that I prepared almost 35 slides. So I will try to keep track of time myself, but should I break the rules, I would like you to intervene immediately.
Okay.
So in principle, I will stick to the time. But should it run late, I may be skipping a few slides, or I may cut things short. Shall I start sharing my screen?
Yes, you shall, Professor.
Okay.
Okay.
Here you are. I'm trying to make it full screen. Can you see it full screen now?
Yes, it's full screen.
Yeah, okay. Now, Mr. Haryanto has kind of been building up the dream of the eco-city. Now, I would not say that it's my task to tear it down again, but what I will be doing is I have, ik ga even weg, lieverd. Ik ben een verhaal aan het. I have my son here, you know, some things are just uncontrollable. But my story is basically going to be about the implementation of policies. So it is very well, and in fact, very important to analyze how the environmental problems as they occur and what can be done about them, and in fact what we should be doing about them. But it's another to develop and especially implement policies. Now I will be taking my examples from the Chinese context, but many of the lessons will also be applicable to Indonesia and other parts of the world. The story is about city branding and then urban transformation, and you will soon find out why. Now, this is a picture taken in a rather relatively rural part of China, I believe in 2005, September 2005. At that time in China, which can be considered in some ways the leader in eco-city development, the expectations were very high. Eco-cities have the future. There is a utopia rising. We need economic growth and we need environmental preservation. And the eco-city, wonderfully, is the way to do this at the same time together. So we can become urban, we can become rich, and our planet can be preserved. And the fantastic mode to do that is eco-city. Now, the trouble was that actually since then, in the case of this particular case, Wandrong Eco-City, not much more occurred than just the construction of the initial exhibition hall, and little else was following. And as you will see in a number of following slides here, not all of the eco-cities under development have been a great success. What I'll first be doing is I will be taking you from a big dream to a harsh reality. And then I will explain why it is so difficult to do eco-city development. It's not that the politicians are bad or that the civil servants are incompetent. Actually, it is a very complicated task. It may be that not all politicians operate the way we want to. It may be that civil servants keep their mouths shut when they should not. But it is not the heart of the problem. The heart of the problem is that policy implementation is a tough thing. So if we want to understand whether and how eco-city policy works, we should not be looking at the plans or at the words. We should be looking at their implementation. What are policy actors in the field really doing with those ideas? And how do they put them to use? And we see that there has been a huge search of city labels in the past 2 decades or so. Eco-city is one of them. We also saw smart city, we saw sponge city, we saw low carbon city, and we saw many more. And then I will be telling you that in fact, the rise of those city labels has something to do with city branding. Now, city branding potentially has a very negative value to it because it means you're trying to be beautiful, but you're not. You're lying with words. Now, the potential is that eco-city as adopted is also used in this way. And then when the smart city comes, it will serve the same function, but it need not be. There are ways to prevent it. And then I'll end with some notes on how we can turn city branding into urban transformation. Now, first of all, if you talk about eco-cities as a Chinese dream, maybe some of us, actually including myself, have a kind of romantic idea that we should go back to nature, that the real ecosystem is nature and nothing else, and that the less urban we are, the less of a city we are, and the more of a beautiful natural landscape with natural lifestyles. For this picture of the Shaolin center in China, a monastery where people are trained to do the Tao and all the exercises for it, that this is the real eco-city. So in that sense, the real eco-city means less humans and humans who live a natural lifestyle. The more we preserve nature, the closer to the ecology we are. Now, we all know that this is a beautiful dream, and then in reality, our populations are rising and that people want to consume more and more and more. This may not be the right thing, but it's the practice. So then if you if you look at how the Chinese dream of eco-cities was really interpreted, then you get a little bit more the picture like this one. This one is actually an image that is used by a lot of architects who want to sell real estate. Of course, you know, building eco-city essentially implies building new real estate. And this real estate and infrastructure must look attractive. So it must look green, but it is buildings and infrastructure. Now, this is how you sell it. You give, in this case, a Chinese couple a feeling, you know, we move away from all the dirt in the city. You see all those motorcycles and cars and congestion and air pollution, and you know that everybody should be enjoying a better life. But it's just not going to happen. But luckily, you have enough money. You are the upper middle class. You can escape. You can escape to the eco-city. And the eco-city is green, and it has beautiful parks, and it has people walking in relatively clean air. The schools are good, the hospitals are safe, COVID-19 is treated properly. This is where you want to be. You want to offer your children a better future, and you do that in the eco-city. And you don't wonder about how environmentally friendly it really is. You just want a safe and clean environment. That is, in practice, the image of the eco-city as it exists in China and many other places, and how it is sold by municipalities and developers and consultants. Nothing wrong with it. It's a very human dream, but it's if you listen to Haryanto's story, this is not maybe what the eco-city should be about, because we all know that urban life leads to higher and not lower consumption, and that urban people use more energy. And they buy more products. And all of those things are part of the capitalist growth model rather than an eco model. Now, if we then look at the implementation of eco-city projects as they have been. Now, I'm just going to focus on China alone and leave, you know, for instance, the United Arab Emirates and Europe out, which both also played a role with Masdar or with Freiburg. Now let's focus just on the Chinese case. Then the first zero carbon city that was originally proposed, maybe some of you have ever read about this in the media, was Dongtan. Dongtan is part of an island close to the shore by Shanghai. It's basically on an island that is off the Shanghai coast. And the famous architecture company, Arab, sold that to the Chinese government, and the Chinese premier and the British premier at that time came to bless this project. But there are a few reasons why it was never constructed. One is people had doubts why an eco-city needs an airport. Does an airport belong in an eco-city? That's a big question. They had proposed one because Shanghai is big enough to grow, and it can accept more and more people if you can place them on this island. But is it eco? Another reason is that because of past famines, China has become very sensitive to agricultural territories. So if you use agricultural land for industrial or urban development, or any other type which is not agricultural, then basically it's banned by law. And the then Shanghai mayor basically had ignored this rule and later on was caught for it. So some rules had been broken, some corruption, if you wish, was found, and this ended the whole project. So Dongtan was never realized. Another project, and that is another part of China in Liaoning province, is that was done by a person very famous in the eco-city movement, William McDonnell. He is the inventor of the cradle-to-cradle approach. The cradle-to-cradle is basically everything that you take from nature, you give back to nature. And he devised those houses for peasants in a rural part of China. And he said, you know, this is based on my famous eco-city model. I find it great that China is courageous enough to build that, because in America, we don't do this kind of thing. But in China, they try and they do well. And the developers in China were very eager to build this kind of thing for their rural people. The trouble was that these housings, as you see them here, they are basically replicas of an American lifestyle. In fact, you can't see this in this picture, but there were even garages for cars inside those houses. Now, this is maybe how American farmers live, but it is not how poor Chinese farmers live. And it's also unlikely to be the case for Indonesian farmers. So why would you transplant an American kind of rural lifestyle, which is already high carbon, to an environment where it's not high carbon yet, but may become high carbon in the future? Another point was that these houses were constructed at land that was very cheap. But cheap land is not always convenient land. These houses were located kilometers away from the farmlands where the people were working. So none of those farmers wanted to buy these houses. They were too expensive. They served purposes they didn't need, and they were far away, far removed from where they had to work. So in fact, this project became a failure. Now, I can give many more examples of not so successful projects. I will not be doing that, but this project, for instance, went kind of bankrupt. This one is famous because the Singapore government is also involved and Singapore state enterprises. Tianjin Binhai is one of the most famous eco-city projects in the world. And the reason is that the Chinese national government is promoting it, the Singapore government is promoting it as a kind of export of knowledge, and it is an attractive lifestyle. The problem is, how urban can it be if it is approximately 40 kilometers away from town? But it has a kind of suburban lifestyle. It's very far from being zero carbon, but it's comparatively attractive, clean, and it looks green. Now, maybe a good way of showing how difficult eco-city development is by looking at Chongming Eco Island. A project that is currently still running, Chongming Eco Island, is actually the larger island that you see here in red, where Dongtan is also located. Now, maybe the Dongtan project was abandoned, but Chongming Island is still in official Chinese and Shanghai policy an eco island. The idea was that there are only about 800,000 people living there on a large island, but there are approximately 25 million people living in the yellow area, which is Shanghai. Wouldn't it be easy to build some bridges and tunnels? And if Shanghai needs further growth, to move all those people from the yellow to the red, and yet do this in a sustainable way? Then you can maybe even host 35 million people in the area. So Shanghai can economically grow further, and it has enough space to do it. Now, if you say, well, we ban industry, so there is going to be no manufacturing on this red island, and there is going to be many more natural parks there, so we keep the area green, that would be a great eco-island, wouldn't it? And in fact, the UNDP, United Nations, was also adopting and favoring this project and giving official advice to the Chinese and Shanghai governments on what they could do. And perhaps also in the Indonesian context, but certainly in the Chinese context, there used to be a situation where applause from the international community or the UN is very important. So if the UNDP adopts your project, it means higher status. I don't think it is so important to China anymore now, but 10 years ago, China still really needed international recognition. So they adopted this plan jointly with international partners. But over time, it appeared that implementing this idea was very difficult. Because what happened, the people living on that island were comparatively poor farmers. And if you ban industry from that island and you say, no, we're only going to do sustainable agriculture, and we're only going to do parks, then what you get is that people sometimes have to abandon industries that they were working on. They have to work in agriculture, but agriculture is not a big profit maker in China. So these people started complaining, you know, they are breaking our economic development. The rest of China and Shanghai gets all the benefits, and we lose employment. What happened in reality was not that there were people moving from Shanghai to Chongming. No, people were moving from Chongming to Shanghai. So Chongming was actually gradually de-developing, it became emptier. And the only Shanghai people who went there was a group of people first trying, you know, oh, they say that Chongming is an eco-island. Let's have a look. And then they had this look and they said, well, it's pretty, but not so special. We prefer Guilin, or we prefer any other place where there are romantic mountains. And this is only a marshland. So they went there one day, or let's say a few days one time. And then they said, well, it's okay, but the hotel is not luxurious enough and they don't have good golf courses. We're not going to come back here. So the tourism in Chongming didn't take off so much. And the only persons who really established there from Shanghai were very rich people who bought large tracts of land to have private villas and to develop their own golf courses. And a few more construction projects took place, but the population did not increase. And actually, the number of natural parks did increase, but they were all very tiny parks. And if you make very tiny parks, then you can build a huge number. But is that good for the environment? Now, here you see that actually a very serious eco-island policy, and it was seriously intended, and the Chinese and the Shanghai government wanted to do the good thing. And if you look at the plan, it looks very sophisticated, but apparently implementation is really tough, is really difficult. So even with good intentions, it can still go wrong. Now, I'm already taking a lot of your time. Shafa, how many minutes have I got left?
Wait, I think I'll ask the committee. Okay, I think you still have 10 more minutes extra.
Yeah, I will certainly not take more than that. At
Okay.
least I promise that by 4 of your time, I will wrap up. Now, what you see as a process here in the current approach is that there are Chinese national ministries, and they all have adapted so-called demonstration programs. So these demonstration programs are encouragement and some support from ministries to local governments. And they tell these local governments, you submit a plan to us about how you want to do the eco-city, what your ideas are. We look at it, and if we find it good, we will approve it. And then you get on an official list of all the eco-cities in China, and that increases your status. And if you are not very rich as a city, then we'll give you some financial support too, and we give you advice from experts. Now, a lot of cities, hundreds of cities applied to this scheme, and they were approved, so they started working. And as they started working, they put a lot of effort on developing indicator systems. You know, how can we, from an engineering point of view almost, how can we map what we are doing? You know, is the number of toxins going down? Is the CO2 going down? Is the green, are the number of green areas in the cities going up? And you can have, you know, especially if you take the triple bottom line, you can have social and economic and environmental indicators, and you can make this a wonderful engineering exercise. And you could also import some experts from abroad on how to tell you how this can best be done and what good solutions are and what works and what doesn't. But what we found in our surveys is that actually there are lots and lots of eco-cities, but only a relatively small number really measure and monitor their indicators. Tianjin Eco-City does it because it is in the spotlight. You know, if the Chinese and the Singapore government is looking, and if you read about in the media, of course, those policymakers are going to be careful. But for many lesser known cities, the eco-city status was a very nice thing to have, but what they really need was more buildings, more infrastructures, and expansion, because they earn money by issuing land. In China, all land is officially public, but you can lease it out to developers. Now, if those developers are willing to pay a lot for your land, as a municipality, a local government, you win money. So for them, the meaning of eco-city development is cash, hard cash. That is the sad truth. So if national governments or experts do not really have the power to stop that development, then eco-city development means real estate development as usual. I am not claiming here that this is happening in all cases, but there is always a risk that this might happen. Now I'm going to skip a few slides. Here you can see that Eco-City program was only one. You also had the low carbon city program and the low carbon eco-city program and the smart city program and the garden city program, many, many more. Each ministry wants one and perhaps more. Now, a key thing that I would like you to have as a takeaway from my talk is that the implementation of those policies takes place in networks. And implementation is the essence of policymaking. Maybe for people who are not in public policy studies, they tend to look at the ideas and at the plans and maybe at the adoption by politicians. And that is where their analysis stops. Because it is not so sexy to write in the newspapers that a program is under operations and that organizations are trying hard to work it out. That's what you don't get to read in the newspapers. And this is not what you get in the social media. It only appears in the social media or in the regular media again, if it is a policy failure. Yeah, then everything's gone wrong and the politicians are wrong. And that's what, as we as a public get to see it again. But everything between the official policy adoption and the scandal in the media is what we don't see. But that, according to me, is the essence of policymaking. So the implementation is essence of policymaking. And if we want to understand why eco-city development works or does not work, then we need to look at implementation, even if this is sometimes a little bit boring. Now, policymaking then consists of a great many players, policy actors, organizations, and they all want their own thing. And maybe the central government wants to have a beautiful story about eco-city development, and local governments want it too, but the local governments also want the cash. In China, they really need this cash from land development to offer services to their residents. If they lose the money, the revenue from land development, they lose half of their income. Now you can imagine what half of your income means if you have to offer services to your citizens. It's fatal. So they cannot just give it up. It's not that they don't want, it's not that they're bad guys. They just have impediments to the implementation. And you only get to see those impediments if you study the policy implementation in depth. Now, all of those actors, they have their own instruments and resources to get things their own way. Maybe the central government has legal things and some funding, but the local government has people working them. And if the local politician said, you know, money comes first and environment comes later, and you work for the local government, what are you going to do? So in reality, you have to look at all those organizations as having their own perspective. Now, I know I've supervised a few Indonesian students in the past, at Delft University specifically, when I was still working at Delft. And I know that the relationships between national and local governments in Indonesia are relatively hierarchical, much more so than, for instance, than in Europe. So it means if the central government wants something, at least officially local governments will never object that. But so they will officially collaborate. I don't know what they will really do. Maybe they really have to collaborate, but we cannot take that for granted either. So these resources that different players have, they can be legal or financial, or it can be about information, or it can be simple organizational resources such as people and computer systems. But with any of those, in principle, local players can block what the central government does. So only if we recognize this interdependency of those actors, we will really understand implementation. I'm going to skip a few slides. Here we see a slide that shows how the city of Xiamen is selling itself. Now, if you want to be popular, you're not going to say, I am great, but you ask somebody else to say, you are great. That's what you do. Well, the city of Xiamen does the same thing. So they ask a South Korean engineer, say, oh, I've been living here and it's such a great city, so green. It is a real eco city. And my children have a great time there. The schools are high quality. That's what you say. And then if you wish, you can use the term eco city. Xiamen is an eco city. And therefore, please come over. And a lot of cities around the world, these are only a number of examples, use this. They use the term eco-city, knowledge city to promote themselves. And we had some studies on all the city labels that were used. Sustainable city, eco city, low carbon city, green city, blah, 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 blah. All of those, here you have 12, and here you see their rise over time. Here you see the smart city. The eco city is a little bit low. The smart city now is the new kid on the block and the most famous kid on the block. And here you see, I think, approximately 35 types, and they all grew. And if you look at the numbers, you see between 1990 and 2019, the recent study that we did, in the beginning, the sustainable city was used only 16 times, and now the smart city is the leader, and it was used 5,161 times. Now, this only goes to show that the use of city labels has increased dramatically, really dramatically. Eco-city is only one of them, and it's even not the most popular one. We see now that in the year, it arrived at 458. The smart city now is the one that is winning the race. But what race exactly is the smart city winning? I believe it is the city branding race. The city branding race is way for cities to make themselves popular in the eyes of everything so that they can attract more investors. Cities want to attract investors, industry, and workforce because that's what makes them a living. Just like companies need profit to survive and expand, cities want to attract investors, industry, and workforce to survive. And they use loyalty through branding to achieve that. In principle, there's nothing wrong with it. Branding is much more than advertising alone. Advertising is simply showing people how great you are doing and why you want to be bought. Marketing is to have the good tools to do that, but branding is really about loyalty. If I promote a company from my own country, Philips, you say, we are always making things better. Now, who can be opposed to making things better? Everybody would be in agreement. Now, cities do something similar. Who can be opposed to an eco-city? if it doesn't cost any money, okay, fine, come over. Now the trouble is that it needs to be implemented. So it's fine to look good in the mirror. And if you do look like in the mirror as you've branded yourself, maybe you look like the person outside, but in the mirror, if you city brand, you also have makeup. So you look just a little bit better in the branding than you are in reality. That is also what cities do. They say that they are an eco-city, and maybe they're working on it, but they are not there yet. Now, what I'm going to say is that eco-cities, therefore, sometimes they try hard, but they do not always deliver on their promises. This is my final slide. Policy implementation in realizing eco-city development is grossly underestimated, but it is the key to understanding whether and why policies do work or do not work. Until we understand the implementation, we look at which players there are, what they do, will we understand how policies can be made successful. Now, in recent years, we have seen a huge surge in the use of attractive city labels. And eco-city is one of them, and smart city is another, and spawn city is one, and circular city is also a new kid on the block, and the smart city recently is the absolute winner. And we made a couple of publications on that topic. Now, the use of city labels is a particular form of city branding. It's not all of it. City branding is also taking place about giving yourself a total identity. And this total identity normally should be different for each city. But the use of city labels is mainly to attract a particular target group, especially investors and companies or residents or external talents who you'd like to settle there. You don't want to have the poor people, because the poor people don't generate income for your city. You want the investors and you want the rich people. Sad truth, but it's unfortunately how it works for cities. So city branding then is a promising entry point for ecological modernization. If it is true that with an eco-city you can be both economically and ecologically successful, that would be great. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So is it really delivering? Now, this city branding is practiced increasingly also with eco-cities, and some of it do it quite well. German city like Freiburg, but also Hangzhou and Shenzhen in China, they do a great job with city branding, and they're also improving the quality of life. Their carbon emissions are still going up. That is almost unstoppable. But actually, the air quality has really improved. Okay, sorry. I'm wrapping up, sorry. So now the key thing is now that the municipal organization should be aligned with the brand. So you should basically implement what you promise. And then eco-city development can lead to real improvement. But if the brand is not implemented, then actually we are telling only stories here. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Martin, for the amazing presentation. I think we learned a lot about how actually EcoCity isn't actually that easy to implement, especially from the policy making and even the cash problems. And we also need to consider a lot of things, especially for developing an EcoCity So amazing presentation. Thank you, Professor Martin. And so we have already arrived to our long-awaited session, which is the Q&A session. And so for the attendees here, you can all send your questions through the Q&A feature in the Zoom. And I will read each one of the questions so that our speakers can answer it through this Zoom. So we have the discussion until 4:44 p.m. So I would like to apologize if I won't manage to read all the questions. So, okay, let's see. All right, we have several questions already came in. The first one, okay, this one is pretty high in the list. From Rudy. Okay, let me read it for a sec. It's for both of the speakers. As we all know, Indonesia has not promoted this eco-city development to their citizens properly, resulting in low awareness of its people. I would like to ask, how can we increase the awareness of the people about eco-city development? And also, how can we analyze the stakeholders that can be involved in this eco-city development? Thank you so much. Okay, maybe I would like to go to Mr. Haryanto first to answer this question. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So this is an interesting question, how we can raise the awareness of the people. So personally, I think one way to achieve that is through use of media. I mean, that's for sure. Like we get information from the media. Well, maybe for the students, you get the information from books. You read the books. But nowadays, I think one of the effective tools is through the use of the social media. And I also realized that maybe for the social media itself, mostly they are the young people who use it. But I think this is a good way to raise the awareness for this eco-city. And also the role of the think tank and NGO in Indonesia, I think it's also increasing. Like maybe not in terms of eco-city, but let's say, for example, to reduce the plastic waste or to be more efficient in energy. I myself use the Instagram, and I see that a lot of hashtags and a lot of people kind of campaigns, and they are aware of it. That's one thing what we can do. And the second one, I think maybe
hello, Mr. Haryanto. I think you are disconnected. Okay, I think there is...
maybe turning off the video, Mr. Haryanto, maybe this can work?
Yes, maybe you can try that, Mr.
Sure. Let me try my stop my video too.
Okay, Mr. Haryanto, can you hear me? Hello? It's still me. Oh, okay. I think Mr. Haryanto has a bit of a technical problem. So maybe Professor Martin, maybe you can answer.
Yeah, let me take over. I'm sorry for Mr. Haryanto. Again, apologies for my long presentation. I should have
it's okay.
myself better. Now, what I think, promotion basically actually is a little bit of the advertising that I mentioned before. I think bland advertising may not be so effective. We have to look at the needs of people. So if there will be a tiny, I'm trying to be realistic here, there will be a tiny segment of the population with enough material resources and enough quality of life to worry about the environment and act according to it. Now, for those people, promoting the idea of the eco-city development is going to be effective. But in most developing countries, people are not opposed to the environment, but they just have other things on their mind. They want to go to work in a reasonable time span. They want to have a good life and preferably a better life for their children and for themselves. And for them, eco-city may be a luxury. If they don't experience firsthand environmental problems, then for them, eco-cities are a luxury. So what I think we should identify then, or in this case, the Indonesian authorities should identify is what drives people when they hear about policy. If they have the freedom and they are in a position to act sustainably, and they are willing to do it, then we can appeal to that feeling. But if actually eco-cities in daily life are very far from their bed, then we should not maybe promote that concept, but we should promote sustainable lifestyles that are also attractive, because people learn from social media what is attractive and what they want. And this is maybe more powerful than what governments say. So governments must think, what is really driving people and how can we connect the environmental agenda to their daily practices? And that can be successful, and then they can be grabbed.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Martin, for the answer. I think we already have Mr. Haryanto back in the Zoom. Mr. Haryanto, can you hear us?
Yes. Sorry for my connection. Yeah.
Okay, it's fine, Mr. Would you like to continue your answer?
Yeah, I agree with Professor Martin. I hear for the last part. So I think what's important is that we could incorporate the idea, not necessarily about the eco-city itself, but more like a sustainable lifestyle to the daily life. I totally agree with that. Like what I said before, like to reduce the use of plastic. I think that's one of the example that we see a lot nowadays, and it actually happens, and more people are aware of it now. So yeah, that's it from my side.
Okay, thank you so much for the answers, both speaker, and thank you to Rudy for asking these amazing questions. I think we out to next questions. This one is for Mr. Haryanto. I have a question, Mr. How is the potential of using nuclear energy in developing an eco-city? Although it's not considered to be a renewable energy and needs adequate waste disposal, it produces less carbon as no combustion involved in the process. Is it possible to be applied in Indonesia? It's for Mr. Haryanto. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very interesting question, whether it's possible or not to use the nuclear energy in Indonesia. But before I answer that, just to provide some context, in Indonesia itself, there is the law and regulations related to the energy utilization. And for the nuclear energy, actually, within our law, it is said as the least priority. So not to say that it's impossible, but when we have other options, we would rather not to use.
Mr. Haryanto, are you okay? Are you having a technical problem again?
Hello.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I will not use my video. So
Okay.
yeah. Well, technologically wise, I agree that it's a clean energy. But from the acceptability and the regulation side, I think it's we still have a long way to use the nuclear energy. And also, we must be aware that when we would like to use this nuclear energy, we would require a strong political will from the decision maker and so on. So I would say that it's not impossible, but it's just that it's not the priority at this moment. Yeah.
Okay, it's possible, but it's not really the priority, right, Mr.? But okay,
Yes, yes.
since this question is actually pretty interesting, I think I would like to hear Professor Martin's point of view about this question. What do you think about this, Professor Martin?
Well, you are you are all more technical experts than I am. But I didn't really conduct research in nuclear energy. But at one time I wrote an extensive book review on a publication, a book by a Chinese author on why nuclear energy was taking off in China. And what struck me there, actually, most of these energy modes, they all have their pros and cons. Maybe gas is the more sustainable one among the traditional sources because it's more efficient and it creates less CO2 output, but it is not sustainable. If you look at about the renewable resources, actually they also require natural resources for their energy production, which are not always in abundant supply, and they are sometimes difficult to add to the grid. If you look at nuclear energy, it doesn't have these problems. So in that sense, it is more stable in its production, and indeed it emits little carbon dioxide. The downside is you need some rare natural resources for that too, like uranium and plutonium. They are not inexhaustible either. And when they were talking about the waste that you create, which needs to be dealt with safely, we have enough space on the planet, but not unlimited to do that. But it also creates a different kind of society, because with all the nuclear plants, they need heavy protection from terrorism, from people who want to do harm. So you get a more policed type of energy production. I'm not saying that I'm opposed to that. This may be necessary. Maybe we need to put all the energy sources together to get the energy mix that people need for their daily life. But I would say all energy sources have their pros and cons, and we have to look in detail to see what works. Nuclear energy is a good way maybe to produce a lot for comparatively little, but the resources for it are not abundant either, and they lead to a more authoritarian lifestyle, because the nuclear plants, they need to be heavily protected and they take a lot of space. So is it sustainable? Actually, no energy source is totally sustainable, but maybe it is on the better side of the spectrum, I would say.
Okay, thank you so much for the answers. I think we will go to the next question. It's from anonymous, actually anonymous. For Professor Martin, I would like to ask, how is the concept of eco-city can be applied in the cities of isolated countries such as Pyongyang, North Korea, AISCHAT, Turkmenistan? How can the resources needed for eco-city development be obtained by such countries?
That's an intriguing question. Actually, what I've noticed relatively in the beginning of my examination to EcoCity is that the idea in general is easy to catch, with a city not living beyond its regional boundaries in terms of the resources that it has, and everything that is taken from nature has to be given back to nature, just like with a circular city. But in practice, we don't get there. And there are many different instruments to improve performance. You can look at renewable energy, you can look at a sustainable transport system, you can look at changing consumption patterns. There are many different triggers all around to move towards a more sustainable way of living. So probably with this concept of the eco-city in mind, or even the eco-country, let's take North Korea as an example then, you have to look at what is currently happening as if it is a kind of brown field site, and see what can we improve in terms of our own performance. And then maybe, one way is to enhance autarky, to say we don't need all those resources from other countries anymore. We are trying to live by our own means. We don't need kiwis from New Zealand. We can use our own apples, you know, and we can live on the agricultural products, and we can do the production that we need for our own environment. Now, North Korea is particularly autarkic, of course, not necessarily a pleasant place to live, and people may not like to live on a small amount of money or a small number of resources. But if you want an eco-city, that may be the ultimate consequence. Theoretically, isolated cities and countries with authoritarian leaders have a great opportunity to realize sustainability. So theoretically, Kim Jong-il could do a great job because he has more power than almost anybody else in their own countries. In practice, of course, you are not totally independent from what people want, and they may still put claims. If to stay in power, you're never completely autonomous. But I would say, look at the city or the nation that you are now and reason from there. Eco-city is a faraway, hazy concept. It's a good inspiration, but the real job is in looking at yourself. What are you doing now? And how can you improve your own performance based on what you have? That's what I would say. And then isolated countries have a particular agenda looking at their own capabilities.
All right, thank you so much, Professor. What an interesting discussion we have about these interesting isolated countries regarding eco-city development. Okay, we still have time, so I think I'll go to the next question. It's from Alvin Mubarak. It's for both of the speakers. Okay, I want to ask you, how can we apply the concept of eco-city in a big city, which in fact has a rarely green environment? Oh, maybe we can start with Mr. Haryanto.
Yeah, thank you for your question. So from the question itself, how to apply the concept of eco-city. So I would say it really depends, like Professor Martin also mentioned, it depends on where you live, and it depends on the local context. So, well, as a starting point, I would say you would need to see what happens with your city itself. Let's say if you see like in a big city where there is good public transport, and the people can adopt that lifestyle where they don't drive their own cars, and they would prefer and use the public transport, like the train, for example. That's also already I would say one way to implement the concept of eco-city. So it really depends on the local context. And let's say like in other areas where let's say in other city, like in Bali Island, I also know that for sure the government there already enacted a regulation banning the use of the single plastic use, like for the supermarkets, for example. There's also one way to say that we already applied the concept of eco-city. So it's not necessarily when we talk about the eco-city like you have to like a green environment. So it still has other aspects like the lifestyle and so on. So it's not necessarily like you need to have a lot of green environment, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haryanto. We can probably go to Professor Martin. What do you think?
Yeah, I think again, starting from the point of departure that you are, most of those large cities, let's assume that they are fairly urbanized and that they are in the process of trying to get rid of their manufacturing. You know, that's what more developed, for instance, more developed cities in China do. They say, well, we have 40% manufacturing, 40% services, and no, let's say 45% services, 45% manufacturing, 10% agriculture, or even less. And then what normally happens is they increase their services, they decrease their manufacturing and their agricultural services or mining. That is the trend that uses, and in principle, this could be leading to a greener environment. I think what they also could do in addition to that is they could do urban greening, reduce the built area and increase the green area. And this can be done by, green ceilings, or I think Mr. Haryanto called it, what was it? Vertical greening. So green gardens, green roofs, decrease the space for cars. Instead of 5 lanes for cars, you make 2 lanes. Some European cities are doing this quite successfully to reduce the attractiveness of cars. I'm not sure this is already politically acceptable in Indonesia, but you could think of that, making the city less attractive to cars in the future. But of course, you must offer alternatives. Then there must be bicycle ways, or there must be subways or something to supplement it. But that is the way forward. More urban greening, more soft surface, as they say it. So less concrete, less asphalt, and more green space. It simply makes the environment more attractive, and it's also more sustainable. And it is a better protection against flooding. Cities in China, cities in the Netherlands, and I assume also several places in Indonesia, perhaps even Jakarta, is susceptible to floods. Now, the way to handle floods in the long term is partly to increase the green surface and partly to create inner water reservoirs, so that whenever rain falls, it is not flooding the city, but it is absorbed in reservoirs, and it can simply, filter through the land without leading to big dangers. So I think those are means for a large city to improve its level of econness.
All right, thank you so much for the answer. And thank you for Alvin for such an interesting question. So we still have time. So I have an info from the committee. We have time until 4:55 for the Q&A. So I think I'll go to the next questions. Okay, let me see. What else do we have here? Okay, it's for... Okay, we have a good one here. It's from Anonymous for both speakers. From the speech given, eco-friendly does not give up economic sector to accentuate environmental side of eco-city. As we know that Indonesians have broad range of occupations, how do locals with various occupations try to relate their jobs to sustainable urban city or eco-city? What kind of impact does it create in local society? Okay, this one's pretty interesting. Maybe we can go with Professor Martin, then we can go to Mr. Haryanto.
Yeah, I think eco-city means different things to different people. So you can always pick up the element that you like or that you want to work with. So in that sense, for each individual, even each citizen, eco-city development can mean something else. That's good. On the other hand, we also need systemic change. So on one hand, people can start with their own lives and see what can I do better? What can we do better? But on the other, as long as our lifestyle is more and more, people want more meat, people want bigger houses, people want more attractive cars, and advertising is promoting this, and companies only see growth and governments only see growth as realistic, and GDP drives our behavior at the systemic level, then of course companies will want to promote their products more. Please consume more. It's good for our economy. And as long as that inherent mechanism is driving nearly the entire world, it also nearly affects nearly all of us. How many of us are able to resist advertising? How many of us feel good when the GDP is going down? Nobody. But we also know that there is almost a one-to-one connection between GDP growth and energy consumption. So which basically, if you look at the mechanisms, people can individually try something, and it does work. but the basic systemic features, they are all moving towards more consumption, more emissions, and stronger hunger for luxury. And if we, in our capitalist systems, we don't manage to fight that, yeah, eco-city development is difficult.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Martin. Maybe we can go to Mr. Haryanto. What do you think about this?
Yeah, thank you. I think Prof. Martin already provides a really great answer, but adding to that, I agree when Professor said the terms of systemic change. So to really say that we want to implement this sustainable cities, it requires a lot of works and collaborations from many institutions. And if you ask like how to relate the jobs to the sustainable city, I don't think it's always possible like to relate directly, but it's more like ensure a daily lifestyle, like how to adopt that kind of lifestyle. And also I want to add, maybe it's more related to the previous question, like how to implement the eco-city. What I can imagine, like maybe in an you say like in an extreme measure, I think the government can require, like, let's say the private companies to install the solar panel on top of their building, that kind of things. I think that's one thing we can do to push for more this sustainable technology adoption, and that's how we can achieve that gradually.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Haryanto, for the answer. And thank you so much for Anonymous for asking the interesting question. Okay, I think we will go to the next one. Let me see. Okay, there is one here in the top list. There are pretty many likes. From Eva. I think it's for Professor Martin again. I heard that every city in China that has participated in demonstrations program is asked to submit a proposal or some kind of idea to develop its own city. Can you give examples of implementing ideas accepted by the Chinese government to support the EcoCity program? Thank you, sir. Okay, that's the question, Martin.
Well, I think yes. So the answer in general to the question is yes, this is happening. And I have been involved in two different detailed studies for cities that appeared on such a list. The first time was in Shenzhen in the southeast. Now everybody knows it. You know, it has basically eclipsed Hong Kong in its development. It's the neighbor. It's now the more powerful neighbor of Hong Kong. And there we worked on a low carbon city project, and a low carbon city project was promoted by the National Development and Reform Committee. That's normally a kind of name that they use in communist societies for the general planning institution that supports the state council. And the NDRC approved that submission from the Shenzhen government. And then in a place roughly also 40 to 50 kilometers out of downtown, a low carbon city was emerging that we were collaborating in. And it really did try to renovate old buildings. It was trying to reinstall local cultures, in this case from a particular minority that exists in China, and that had basically lost its flavor, but they were beefing it up again. And then they were promoting electric cars. They connected it with the subways, which was somewhat expensive, but the right thing to do. So they encountered challenges, but Shenzhen is a very rich city. So basically anything it wants, it gets. It has the support from the national government because it was one of the first special economic zones. It is now in GDP per capita #1 in China, and it is among the first tier cities. So it's doing well, and it's working. The main challenge is still to attract enough businesses to that area, but as a low carbon city is considered a success. The other case that I've been to is Jingmen. And Jingmen is really central in the country, not very far from Wuhan, the Wuhan that we all know. Jingmen also underwent a very serious lockdown last year. So I don't know what the situation is now. I haven't been there since. At that time, it was average in location, average in GDP, average in other types of developments. And they also applied to become an eco-city, and they became one. And the idea was there that there was a lot of polluting petrochemical industry and a lot of polluting concrete industry in the area. And this needed to be phased out and would be replaced by sustainable agriculture and by tourism. Because generally sustainable agriculture and tourism are seen as ecology friendly developments, whereas of course excavation and oil do not sound so good. So it was in theory, it was an easy policy to implement, to adopt. But the implementation came, and then, you know, statistics show that the petrochemical industry it provides about 70% of local GDP, and concrete another 10%, and that there are eager, idealistic entrepreneurs who want to engage in sustainable tourism and sustainable agriculture. But it also showed you cannot run an economy for 2 to 3 million people on sustainable tourism and sustainable agriculture alone. Even if you have what they say, the cleanest lake of China, it doesn't mean that the tourists come in hordes because there is, at that time, there was no high-speed rail yet. There was no airport. It was 2 hours away, 3 hours away by car from Wuhan. So people don't have easy access to those tourist facilities. And if they find them, we don't know if they're going to find them high quality. Sustainable agriculture can maybe provide 5, maybe 10% of local GDP, but you cannot feed all mouths from that. If 70% of your people live on petroleum, and these are also run by national level state enterprises, you cannot say, please go away. No, because those national enterprises say, who are you, little Jingmen? We are a national company. We don't go anywhere. So it's difficult. You know, those average Chinese cities, probably like average Indonesian cities, it's easy to tell them become an eco-city and the world be a better place. But implementation is hard, and we have to look at the facts.
All right, thank you so much, Professor. And thank you, Eva, for the amazing question. We still have approximately about 15 minutes left for this Q&A session. I think we still have time for a few more questions. So let me look again in the list. Okay, this has pretty much like, okay. This is from Anonymous. I think it's for both of the speakers. Hello, I want to ask about how do you think the private sector, like private developers, for example, can affect the eco-city development? Are they included as one of the strong stakeholders in policy making? Okay, maybe we can go to Mr. Haryanto first. Mr. Haryanto, what do you think?
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for the question as well. I think at least in Indonesian case, definitely yes. They are one of the important stakeholders that we need to consider. Let's say, like for example, like we know that last year Indonesia want to create Indonesia battery holding, and in the long term we would like to manufacture the electric cars, and I think the electric cars itself support the idea of the eco-city implementation. So to develop this supply chain to create the battery and so on, honestly speaking, I don't think Indonesia itself have all the funds or the budgets ourselves, and in this case we need to collaborate with other countries. We require huge investments, like from the private sectors, like the CATL. I think that's one thing. The private company from the China, they invest a lot, and also from the Korea, they invest a huge amount of fund to develop the factory to produce the battery for the electric cars. So looking from that that one example, I would say that private sector is really an important stakeholders that we should include when we want to develop the eco-city.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Haryanto.
Shafa, may I ask you to repeat the question because I was still recovering from my previous answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. I can read it more. Okay. How do you think the private sector, like private developers, for an example, can affect the eco-city development? And are they included as one of the strong stakeholders in policy making? That will be the question.
Absolutely, they should be. Yes, there is no way the public sector alone can do this job. But we have to look a little bit about what drives companies. It depends, of course, there is a great variety of companies. Now, the dominant, if you wish, neoliberal model is that, and that comes from economic theory from Friedman, is that companies are there to maximize shareholder value. Now, if we adopt this idea, now maybe with Islamic banking, it's a little bit different, and it's maybe less short-term oriented, and interest rates are suspicious. But overall, this drive towards maximizing shareholder value and stock market has become dominant for large industry. Now, this large industry then is out for profit maximization at the expense of anything else. That means that whatever you do to promote sustainability is always subservient to this profit maximization. As long as the private sector is adopting just this principle, you need the private sector, but the private sector is not going to do the job, because what people buy and what people want and what is promoted through advertising is rarely the most sustainable solution to problems. So if we want the private sector to be truly engaged, luckily there are some new, if you wish, a little bit left-wing economists. They are saying, profit maximization should not be the thing. Of course, you need enough money, but there is also satisfaction from your employees. There is also a good connection with suppliers and customers. And there is also future generations. Now, if you take a broader concept of the company that is not only a profit maker, but that it defines its goal as we deliver something, we want to deliver good real estate, or we want to deliver good renewable energy, this is our goal. And profit is, or running break even is a condition, but not a goal. Then the conception of companies changes, and then the companies can make a more realistic contribution to environmental preservation and the eco-city. So I think, yes, we need private companies, and these companies are often of goodwill. They want to help. Not everybody is a bad guy, but the whole way in which they see success must be moving away from maximizing shareholder value, and it must perhaps become balancing different stakeholder values, of which future generations are a toothless and invisible, but very important force. So I think, yes, companies, but then with a substantial, idealistic goal driving them rather than a profit maximization.
Okay, thank you so much for Professor Martin and Mr. Haryanto for the answer. Okay, it seems like we have a little bit of time left, but the committee said we still have some slots for one more question. So I will be taking the very top list from the Q&A. Okay, this is, wow, it's from Anonymous. Okay. Is there any city in this world that is close to reach eco-city? And if there is one, why do you choose that city? And maybe you have any aspect from this eco-city that can be learned by other cities. Okay, maybe we can go with Mr. Haryanto first. Mr. Haryanto, what do you think?
Yeah, thank you for this question. So to be honest, like when I had this question, like it's close to reach the eco city itself, I would say it really depends on the definition itself and what kind of indicators you use to say like this city is really an eco city. But what I can think of is some examples like close to Indonesia, like Singapore. I know from what I read, I think Singapore itself is one of the example of the eco city. And why is that? Because I would say they have features of the eco city, like there's the public access to transportation, quality education, waste management and so on. So that's what I can think of. And also another example I would say is I think maybe from Bogota, if I remember correctly, from Colombia. I think Jakarta's busway system itself is adopted from that city. So actually, there are many cities in this world that we can consider as an eco city, but I cannot really find out like just one this city itself is the perfect eco city. So it really depends again on its country's situation and condition.
Yeah, I totally agree. There is no ideal eco-city. The ideal eco-city is only a concept where people are satisfied with a simple life, and that barely exists. So if you look at historically at what a sustainable places are, if people are not living beyond their means, then interestingly, medieval cities in Europe score highly, not because they're comfortable necessarily, although they are beautiful actually, but they have small houses, they have no cars, they have people walking tiny streets, they live in tiny houses. There is a lot of specific cultural features which make you say, oh, of course, this is Siena in Italy, and everybody recognizes the central square there because it's unique. So if you look historically, then medieval towns are both culturally and environmentally, and to some extent economically, very sustainable. But they are not built anymore these days. Maybe sometimes there are imitations of this happening, but they always lead to more comfortable lives because people don't like small houses anymore. And people don't want to run the risk of having lack of hygiene, because hygiene was a serious issue in medieval towns that was small. If you look at the modern city, I think the starting position then is that people are living far beyond their means, whether it would be Stockholm or Copenhagen or Amsterdam or Shenzhen or Xiamen, or Singapore. They all are clean. They're relatively green. People use public transport more than usual. But still, if you look at the consumption patterns and the production patterns, they are by no means really sustainable. These people import luxury goods from anywhere around the world. So the luxury that they have occurs at the expense of misery elsewhere. Wherever there is a rich eco-city of comfortable lifestyle, the production takes place elsewhere, in India, in Malaysia, in Bangladesh, in Indonesia. And then those people produce and they have the pollution, and that the comfortable cities in Europe and parts of China and America, they have the sustainable production, because production is not basically services there, but they don't have the sustainable consumption. So when we hear the hurrah stories about Stockholm or Shenzhen, we should realize that, yeah, these people maybe live in some kind of eco-city, and they do good things for the world, but their consumption is still not sustainable. And somewhere else in the world, at some other place, people are producing unsustainably to allow for their comfortable lifestyle. So the real sustainable city balances production and consumption. And yeah, then we simply have to take a few steps back. It's inevitable.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Martin and Mr. Haryanto, for the question, for the answer. Okay, so sadly we have reached the end of our Q&A session. First of all, I'm very sorry for all the attendees' questions who hasn't been answered in this event, but I'm pretty sure that we have learned a lot, really a lot, from Professor Martin and from Mr. Haryanto about eco-city development, including the challenges and all the actors that are involved in this eco-city development. Thank you so much again for Professor Martin de Jong and Mr. Haryanto for giving the time to share these new and valuable insights to us all. Okay, and we would like to thank our sponsors, PT Pembangkitan Jawa Bali, PT Energi Management Indonesia Persero, Purnomo Yusgiantoro Center, and Badak LNG. And lastly, we want to thank all attendees for coming to this event. So before we end today's event, I want to briefly explain the AISC upcoming events. So as I have told you before, there is a conference day. The main event of the AISC 2021 is coming really soon. So you can register yourself as a delegate for an opportunity to discuss sustainability topics with notable experts. There are also lots of other great things to anticipate on the conference day. It will surely be an exciting experience. Besides the conference day, there will also be a social night. After a long journey of webinars and competitions, this social night will present a night full of joy and laughter. Through social night, you can also mingle with attendees from universities in Indonesia, Singapore, and also Malaysia. And here's a little bit of a spoiler. It will going to be a theme party, full of surprises, of course. So don't forget to register yourself and let's rock the night together. And last but not least, to get your e-certificate and bonus notes, you can fill in the feedback form with the corresponding passwords. So that is all from me. Thank you so much for all the speakers and all the attendants today. The whole AISC team apologizes if there are any mistakes. Once again, I am Mila from Urban and Regional Planning of Bandung Institute of Technology. Thank you and see you on AISCHAT 4.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very much.
Professor. Thank you, Mr. Haryanto. Okay, thank you all for attending today. Thank you so much. Okay.
I want you by my side so that I'll never feel alone. Too strong anyway. We need to fetch back the time they have stolen from us. And I want you, we can bring it on the floor. We've never danced like this before. We don't talk about it, dance on, do the boogie all night long. Stoned in paradise, shouldn't talk about it. I want you, we can bring it on the floor. We've never danced like this before. We don't talk about it, dance on, do the boogie all night long. Stoned in paradise, shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't talk about it. Coldest winter for me. No sun is shining anymore. The only thing I feel is pain caused by absence of you. Suspense controlling my mind. I cannot find the way out of here. I want you by my side so that never feel alone again. Love wants you, we can bring it on the floor. We've never danced like this before. We don't talk about it, dance